Please be seated. Good evening. I'm Tracy McGrady. I'm Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at OTC, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening to the Fall 2022 PTK Induction Ceremony. Thank you all for being here to celebrate these accomplished students. And speaking of accomplished students, I'd like to take a moment to first thank tonight's inductees. You have chosen OTC to be a part of your educational journey, and we are honored. I also want to thank all of you attending, family, friends, faculty, staff, who serve as such important supporters along your students' journey. Our PTK chapter is so very special to us at OTC, and we are grateful for the encouragement that you provide. So again, thank you. Welcome to tonight's celebration.
Thank you, Dr. McGrady. My name is Nick Kreider. I am honored to serve as the president of the Alpha Psi Tau chapter of Phi Theta Kappa, as well as the president of the Missouri region. I'd like to introduce you to our honored guests on the stage. First is Dr. Tracy McGrady, who welcomed us this evening. Dr. McGrady serves as the Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Ozarks Technical Community College. Next, Dr. Dennis Lancaster, Chancellor of Missouri State University West Plains, and our guest speaker this evening. Paul Young, Vice President of Leadership for Alpha Psi Tau chapter of Phi Theta Kappa and Honors Office staff. Amelia Lai, Vice President of Scholarship for the Alpha Psi Tau chapter of Phi Theta Kappa. Autumn Seeley, Vice President of Fellowship for the Alpha Psi Tau chapter of Phi Theta Kappa and Vice President of Scholarship for the Missouri region. In addition to these guests, I'd like to recognize our other Alpha Psi Tau chapter and Missouri region officers, our chapter advisors, and Honors Office staff and attendants tonight, who have dedicated a great deal of their time, their hearts to Phi Theta Kappa this year. As I call your name, please stand and remain standing. Audience, please hold your applause until the end. Stephanie Cruz, Chapter Vice President of Service. Mike Schaefer, Chapter Vice President of Campus Promotions, Executive Vice President of the Missouri Region and Honors Office staff. Zachary Levitt, Chapter Vice President of Virtual Promotions. Darla Wilson, Editor-in-Chief of the chapter newspaper, The Pinnacle. Jessica Sneewees, Chapter Secretary. Faith Sheridan, Chapter Treasurer. Dee Lancaster, Vice President of Service for the Missouri Region and Honors Office staff. Justin Vance, Vice President of Leadership for the Missouri Region. Todd Yerby, our Chapter Advisor. Cassidy Turner, Chapter Advisor. April Bollinger, Honors Office staff. Sammy Smith, Honors Office staff. Trish Chastain, Honors Office staff. Crystal Thompson, Honors Office staff. Additionally, if you are a current member of Phi Theta Kappa, a member being inducted this evening, or a Phi Theta Kappa alumnus, please stand. All of those standing before you are instrumental in the success of the Alpha Psi Tau chapter through scholarship, leadership, service, and fellowship. These individuals are bonded by their academic achievement, participation, or support for the Alpha Psi Tau chapter of Phi Theta Kappa. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. Please be seated. We are honored this evening to be joined by Dr. Dennis Lancaster, Chancellor of Missouri State University, West Plains. Dennis is in his third year as Chancellor of Missouri State University, West Plains, and his 30th year as a Missouri State West Plains staff and faculty member. Over the past 3 decades, he has served in several capacities, including Dean of Academic Affairs, Assistant to the Chancellor, Director of the William and Virginia Darn Honors Program, Assistant Coordinator of Public Relations, Special Projects Coordinator, and throughout his career as a teacher. Teaching is important to Dennis, and he maintains his Assistant Professor of Letters status and continues to teach when he can and connect with students throughout the year. Dennis obtained his bachelor's degree in English Literature and Philosophy from Drury University in 1984, a master's degree in journalism with an emphasis in political communication and media ethics from the University of Missouri in 1996, and a ED in Higher Education Administration from Linwood University, St. Louis, Missouri in 2014. Prior to coming to Missouri State West Plains, Dennis worked as a reporter-photographer for a small-town daily newspaper. He owned a bookstore and worked as a waiter during college. All three formative experiences in his life and career. For the past 40 years, Dennis has been married to Rita, and they have 4 children: Seth and daughter-in-law Beth, Leslie, Corey, and son-in-law Jared, and Nicholas and daughter-in-law Sarah, and 7 grandchildren who he loves dearly and is amused by constantly. In his spare time, Dennis enjoys traveling, hiking, writing, and working to restore his family's 100-year-old farmhouse and grounds. Please welcome Dr. Dennis Lancaster.
Good evening, and thank you, Nick, for that introduction. And thank you, Mr. Yerby. It's hard for me to call him Mr. Yerby, you all have to realize, because, I'll put that up, Tracy, because Todd was one of my students at one time. He came in from Houston, Missouri, and I knew immediately, I was telling Nick, I knew immediately this kid was weird. And I loved him immediately. And so I appreciate Todd, and I'm very, very proud of Todd. Also, thank you to Dr. McGrady for all of you inviting me to speak tonight to your Phi Theta Kappa on this very special night. For nearly 30 years, PTK has played an important part of my life and the life of my students at Missouri State West Plains, and it's a pleasure to be here. So first and foremost, let me say to you PTK members, old and new, that tonight my overarching intent is to acknowledge you and your achievements and to honor the work that has earned you this distinction in one of America's best college honor societies. Congratulations. While helping you to honor you, I also want to push you beyond tonight, beyond the induction, beyond the certificate, beyond the distinction of being among our nation's best and brightest. This is what you've done. So what are you going to do now? If I may, I want to lay out a challenge, a moral imperative, if you will. The challenge is this: ask questions, and ask questions, and ask more questions. And when you're exhausted, then ask questions about your questions. Then yes, start all over again. So your first question might be, what the heck is this guy talking about? So let's start with the how-to side first. I've come to believe that for each of us wanting to live the life of a thinking, educated person, we have to be able to conduct what I call the WIFI test. That's my made-up acronym to help us remember a series of questions about how to question. It looks like this. So W stands for the question, what is it? With it being whatever you're encountering. This could be an object, an action, an emotion, a representation, even an idea, or whatever. I've yet to find something you couldn't examine this way. H stands for, how do I know it is what I think it is? Stay with me, okay? It gets more complicated. Here you're questioning the process of arriving at your answer to the what is it question. How did I get there? IF stands for, what if it isn't what I think it is? While the next F stands for a second if question, what if it could be something else? These are two very different and very important questions that attempt to take you away from the surety of your answer and begin to break through the paradigms that surround your it answer. Finally, the why stands for a why question. Why have I come to this conclusion about it? This looks even more inward to your internal motivations to why you answered as you did. Let's test this out a bit. As a teacher, I've always liked to present practical representations of very complex ideas. So tolerate me for a bit as I try to demonstrate why you might want to use the Wi-Fi test. So I dropped by our favorite communal place called Walmart and walked into the produce section. So think about your Walmart when you walk in. It's either on the right or the left, it's how they designed it. And so I walk in and I see these objects that are there on the tables. So excuse me, Autumn. Put these here. So what are these things? So this is where the crowd, in a very weird, awkward moment, will talk to me, okay? So what are these things? Thank you, or I'll get A's for the day. So they are apples, and so that is the what is it question. So how do you know they are apples? Well, I'll answer for you on this one. Probably because you've seen them before, I would imagine. So when we had kids, the moment they popped out of mom, we were talking about objects. This is an apple. This is not an apple. So we were trying to differentiate between the world that they were encountering. But the problem is that we call these all apples, yet they are 4 different looking objects. So what's the real apple, the philosopher asks? How do you know these are apples? So that's the how question. So what if they're not apples? What if, because here's another object. It does stand up. There's another object, and what is that? It's a pear, that's right. So we treat it the same way, we use it almost the same way, but it's not an apple, right? So if that's not an apple, then what is it? Well, it's a pear. Well, if we're looking at the other apples, then what could they be? If they're not an apple, what could they be is a question, all right? We'll let that linger for a minute. And then why? Why did I answer that way? Why did we answer that way? Well, it kind of goes back to the how on this one. So it's because we've encountered them before. Or mom and dad told us that was what it was. And the world repeats that and encourages that knowledge. Okay. So let's hang on with that. So let's do another one. I'm going to ask Amelia to come up and help me. Amelia is a very brave person. So Amelia, this is not Amelia. Amelia, what is this, Amelia? You can even hold it if you want.
I think I would describe this as a teddy bear.
A teddy bear, okay. And what makes you think it's a teddy bear?
Well, it's certainly bear-shaped, my estimation, but not very accurately. It's sort of like I would expect this to be something a child would possess, and that's what I associate with a teddy bear.
Okay. And what if it was something else? What could it be if it's something else?
I'm not sure. Could it be something else? I mean, I'm not very familiar with animal shapes, so it could entirely be a completely different creature.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident this is stuff. So it's definitely.
You think?
Yeah, sure. I think.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Amelia. Appreciate that. All right. Have a seat. We'll do that. Amelia is dead wrong. This is my childhood. Now, while this looks like an object to Amelia, to me, this is my childhood. Because this is little Teddy. Also known as Johnny to my kids, but this is little Teddy. And little Teddy lived with me for a long time, actually 60 years. And I can remember when I lost little Teddy, and it was a traumatic experience. Little Teddy represents safety and security and love to me. So my reality is not that this is a teddy bear, but this is little Teddy. This is me. This is my childhood. Okay? So this idea of what is that? Might be different given your experiences. Amelia's experience with this is not my experience. Does that make sense? These are objects, but what about ideas? For all ideas, you have to break them down as far as you can to parts of which they're composed. And while we don't have time to do a complete breakdown, I do want you to consider how ideas are communicated as part of the process of determining what an idea is. For instance, let's say someone told me, "Dennis, I love you." Can you hear it? Just ringing out there. Seems simple enough. Let's say it's a girl I used to date named Rita who told me this. So between the millisecond she says this to me and my reaction, I need to go through the Wi-Fi test. Something like this. So what did she just say? What is it? What is love? What is that thing? Well, is the it I'm concerned with here the idea of love? Is the it actually Rita or my idea of Rita that I need to examine? Is the it really me here that I've got to go through? Or is the it the communication, the verbal and non-verbal that Rita has used in this situation? A lot of different ways of looking at this, right? So how do I know it is what I think it is? How do I know this word that she used is what I think it is? What's been my experiences with Rita? What has she communicated to me up to this moment? What have others said about her or me or about us? And what do the love theorists have to say? Those usually are friends that want to give you their advice. What if it isn't what I think it is? Then I'm in trouble. I better ask her some questions. What if it could be something else? What else could that word mean? Maybe Rita just thinks I'm a real hoot of a guy. Maybe she loves me because I buy her McDonald's on every date. Maybe she just loves me because I'm her trophy man. Or maybe it's a conspiracy. Maybe she's telling me what I want to hear to get my apples and my teddy bear collection. Why have I come to this conclusion about it, about love? Do I want Rita to love me? Is it her that I want to love me, or do I just want to be loved by anyone? Maybe I just want to hear that word said with my name attached. And what do I think her statement means? But why would she want to love me? I mean, look at me. I'm not on The Bachelor. I've not been really loved by anyone before. What does she really want from me? Or maybe, does it mean I want her to love me for just tonight? Or for as long as we're still having a good time? Or, well, for our forever? Or maybe, and remember I'm a man, she thinks she wants me bad and I want her bad. Or maybe, perhaps maybe, she's telling me that she likes being with me and respects me and has deep feelings for me, and with those three little words is expressing a feeling that's starting to look as, feel as, sound as, conceptually be understood as unconditional love. I was one fun date, wasn't I? Whether or not you use this Wi-Fi test or not, the point I want to leave you with is this. You and I live in a time when each of us must ask questions about what we perceive around us, what we perceive to be reality, and or what others tell us is real. I firmly believe that this is a moral imperative, that your generation of college students, no matter how old you are, must engage and use. We must ask questions of the world external to our consciousness, but also of the inward world, both conscious and unconscious. If we don't, we face being led astray, both as individuals, as a society, and as a member of humanity. We not only have to ask the tough questions every bit of communication that comes our way, but we also have to be brutally honest with what we tell ourselves. We must understand and accept that we are influenced, if not downright manipulated, because whether we choose it or not, we desperately want to hear the truth with a capital T. The world is complex, enticing at times, scary at others, and we just want to know, truly know what to do, where to go, and who we are. We must ask all of these questions. Well, why must we do that? Because you see, there's a lot of plastic in this world that comes off as real apples. And someone's willing to sell you this as an apple. So how do you know what you're buying? How do you know that what you see on television and how those commercials are seeking your dollar, how do you know that's real? How do you know what you really want? You have to ask questions. There's also the issue of ourselves, and how do we see ourselves? And this is the last part of what I want to share. So let me tell you a story to demonstrate. This is a real story. So my wife, Rita, I didn't marry her, she went to work as a speech pathologist once we got out of college. She followed me home to West Plains. She was from elsewhere. And she got a job in a little town outside of West Plains in an elementary school. She got to know one of her students named Nathaniel. So Nathaniel was a kindergartner, had a problem with, I don't know what it was, but she was working with it as a speech therapist. She also found out from Nathaniel that his nickname was Nate. And so she thought that was cute. So one day, Rita was standing in the hallway talking to another instructor, and Nathaniel was coming down the hallway. And then as Nathaniel got closer into within earshot, then she asked Mrs. Smith, do you know what they call Nathaniel at home? And Mrs. Smith said no, and then Rita said, Nathaniel, what do they call you at home? And without skipping a beat, he said, asshole. The shock of hearing that come out of the kindergartner's mouth, and the shock of me saying that even here, is humorous. However, it's the saddest story I've ever heard. Think for a moment why a kindergarten student, he may not even know what that word means, what the connotations of that word means. But he had heard it enough that that was what they called him, and that's what his name was. Nathaniel would be somewhere close to 40 years old today. I wonder if he ever asked the question, am I really an asshole? If he did, then I would hope that he was able to move beyond the shadow of reality that Plato talks about in his myth of the cave. That those around him in his cave world at the time, that shadow of reality that was created in his mind and heart, did he move past that? If he didn't ask the question, then I wonder where he is today. What is he doing? How does he feel about himself? Has he loved someone? Has someone loved him? I want to know if his identity paradigm, that very complex idea of who he is, who he wants to be, and where he wants to go, is fundamentally and foundationally built on the truth that he is at asking. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I don't have to give up in despair and wrap ourselves in the social-mediated pseudo-realities that every age of humanity has provided and will provide. This isn't new, what we hear today. As the philosopher-theologian Paul Tillich once said, it takes courage, the willingness to do despite. I wholeheartedly agree. It takes courage to live beyond the voices that call to us, a courage to truly exist as a thinking person, one who asks questions, deep, disturbing, disrupting questions when others will not or who cannot. With such courage, we can ask the tough questions, find the best answers we can, and create a world of existence for ourselves, create a better world of existence for ourselves and for those around us. That's a moral imperative. I think we must do that as thinking, educated people. That, my friends, is what I hope you'll do beyond tonight. Enjoy the honor. You definitely deserve it, but earn it too. Make it mean something. Again, congratulations.
I'm proud tonight to recognize some very special people. Our PTK students have the opportunity to nominate OTC instructors and staff who have contributed in some significant way to their educational goals, and who have served as mentors and guides in their pursuit of academic excellence. The individuals being honored tonight are listed in your program. And for those of the mentors who are here, I know I saw some of you before the ceremony. If you are here in attendance, please stand and remain standing while I call your names. Dr. David Ball, Dr. Joan Barrett, Andrew Crocker, Joseph Danton, Arlena Golden, Dan Jansen, Becky Jenkins, Jeff Jones, Marilee Cahoot, Tara Lacio, Dr. Diana Parker, Holly Peck, Dr. Morgan Presley, John Proctor, Holly Schweigert, Becky Stevens, Richard Turner, and Mike Vest. These individuals have served as an inspiration for our students here tonight, and I'm pleased to present them to you this evening. Let's give these mentors a round of applause for the lives they've lived.
Honored President and fellow Phi Theta Kappa members, I am pleased to present to you these candidates for membership in our Honor Society. These students have fulfilled all requirements for membership and have been selected because they have chosen scholarship, leadership, service, and fellowship as their hallmarks. I recommend them for acceptance into the Alpha Psi Tau chapter of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society and receive them in the lifelong pursuit of scholarship, leadership, service, and fellowship.
You are about to be inducted into a scholarly fellowship which embraces community colleges not only in your own state, but of the nation and the world. This fellowship is Phi Theta Kappa, and your chapter is Alpha Psi Tau. After induction, you will find among the members an atmosphere of scholarship to which you must give of yourself in order that the organization may be meaningful to you.
I have in my hand a torch, symbolic of knowledge, which is the servant of wisdom, which dwells with prudence and leads in the way of righteousness in the midst of the paths of judgment. Here, we also have white roses typifying purity and beauty of life, with its white bud signifying intellectual association.
In front of the podium is the emblem of Phi Theta Kappa. It consists of a golden slab, keyed at the top and the bottom. The golden field, like the escutcheon of our coat of arms, refers to the golden opportunities that abound on every hand for society members to evidence their culture and perform good works. Since gold is the most noble of metals, it shall have further significance to our society. It shall represent that nobility attained by those who achieve intellectual leadership. Across the slab, you will observe a black band. It represents three ideals which bind us together, and the cultural self-control, which is a necessary foundation for true wisdom, aspiration, and purity. Shining through the black enamel background are three Greek letters, which are the initials for the Greek words meaning wisdom, aspiration, and purity. Behind the band is a wreath, on one side composed of oak leaves, on the other of laurel. The oak leaves stand for stability and strength of character, as symbolized by the sturdy oak. The graceful curling leaves of the laurel signify achievement and success, all attributes for membership in our society. Above the band is the representation of the head of Athena, a symbol of learning. In the base appear the Greek letters meaning light, the light of knowledge and learning, the common ideal for members of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. This badge stands as a symbol for the high idealism of our organization and membership into our select group. You have studied the Constitution of this organization, the purpose of which is to foster a spirit of devotion to study, to scholarly ideals among its members, and whose principles are embodied in the Greek letters which stand for phronimon, thumos, and katharotes, wisdom, aspiration, and purity. Would tonight's inductees please stand? Now that the standards and ideals of this organization have been fully revealed to you, you come to complete the pledge which admits you into complete fellowship. Repeat after me. I, and state your name. Do solemnly promise on the 9th day of November 2022 to uphold the standards of Phi Theta Kappa and to keep this object and aim in mind. And I do solemnly pledge allegiance to my fellow members and promise to aid them in all worthy endeavors. I would now ask for PTK inductees to make their way to the stage to be recognized.
Jesse Laxon, Sherry Lee, Audra Grauberger, David Ferguson, Ruby McLean, Chrissy Zubiaga, Eliana Borbe, Rebecca Grant, Ryan Brunson, Allison Mendenhall, Cheyenne Deckard, Emily Hayward, Brianna Barrett, Katie Hayward, Rachel Barnett, Tracy Boucher, Alika Alexander, Bryce Sutherland, Lorena Reeves, Kristen Klein, Tiffany Keith, Sean Kennedy, Preston Schaefer, Bo Cartwright, Kate Bildner, Lucinda Carter, Robert Thomas Gumersel, Maggie Levitt, Ashley Nichols, Carrie DeVolt, Carly Billings.
It is my pleasure to to welcome you to the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society and the lively fellowship of scholars it affords. I salute you for your accomplishment. I charge you to explore always for truth and to dedicate yourselves to the cultivation of the well-reasoned life as a prelude to service and honor. Let's give our inductees a round of applause.
As we close the ceremony this evening, I want to thank all the members and supporters of Phi Theta Kappa and all our guests in the audience as we have honored our new inductees. Some of you may know that Phi Theta Kappa began in 1918 in the state of Missouri, and our newest members here tonight carry on the legacy in our home state, a legacy that has grown into Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society of two-year colleges with over 3.5 million members in the United States and 10 sovereign nations. Students, you and your guests are welcome to take pictures on stage after the ceremony, and before we leave this evening, I'd like to thank you once again for being here to celebrate our newest PTK inductees. OTC is proud to have such a strong and vibrant chapter, and we look forward to continuing our support of their great work. Good night.